Well, it is Masterclass time, and we are in week 2, which means will be studying today chapter 2. For those of you that are just joining us, we are studying Open Your Mind to Prosperity by Catherine Ponder. You can get the book anywhere that you buy spiritual New Thought texts. It is available in print and digital formats. But whether you have the book or not, it's okay, because we're going to share it on the screen and walk through it. We trust that everyone has read chapter 1 and reread chapter 1 as we advised last week. And if you haven't, you can always go back. You can always revisit it. I also want to remind you, and you'll see this on the screen as we're moving through, as you're reading, if you have questions, you can send your questions in to truthsunday@celebrationsc.org, and we may incorporate that question into the next class to support you and to support everyone else that is on this journey with you. So let me get my screen set up so I can see everything that I need to see.
Chapter 2, Cleanse Your Mind for Prosperity.
Beautiful. So, yes, this is a wonderful chapter. We started Open Your Mind to Prosperity, chapter 2, Cleanse Your Mind for Prosperity. We're going to do our best to get through as much of this chapter as we can. Cleansing or purification is the first step in prosperity. Interesting. First step. Not vision board, not imagining, not writing down what you want, all that stuff that you hear people talking about. The first step in prosperity is cleansing or purification. If people around the world knew the cleansing steps to prosperity and used them, they could revolutionize their lives for good. The mystics had a 3-point formula for success: purification or cleansing, illumination or receiving guidance on how to be prospered, and 3, union with God and God's good. And this is very much mystical. This aligns with all of the esoteric paths. I'm thinking about Gnosticism specifically, and I've taught on this in the past: purification, illumination, union.
And it's not purification that you're a bad sinner and you're wrong kind of purification.
Right.
It's eliminating the thoughts that would separate you from that third step, union with God.
There you go. These 3 steps to success are covered in this and the following chapters. The Bible is filled with cleansing symbolism: sacrifice, renunciation, repentance. Even the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem is symbolic of the letting go of negative emotions that is necessary before prosperity can come. The ancient Greeks observed rites of purification, and so must we. Life is a constant purification process. If you try to bypass this cleansing process in your thoughts and feelings, PY just said that, you bypass your good because you have not cleaned out your mind and emotions to receive the good you want. Dr. Evelyn Underhill has explained the cleansing process forms a large part of our spiritual life. It is our own fault if we do not get purified in this life.
And Dr. Underhill wrote a book on mysticism, if you're curious about that.
Beautiful.
Why she quotes her.
Yeah. And so this is beautiful. Again, we want to emphasize and overemphasize that when you hear words like purification and cleansing, it automatically will trigger all of that old stuff around needing to be purified, right?
Or baptized.
I grew up in the Pentecostal Holiness Church, right? So there was a whole thing around that you had to be pure, right? You had to purify yourself. And, before you could receive the Holy Ghost, you had to fast and pray. And it was like you had to be worthy of experiencing God. That's not what this is talking about. What we recognize is that there are, as she writes here, thoughts and feelings that are standing in the way of the good that is already available to us. And so we must consciously and deliberately and intentionally become aware of those things and remove them. And that is a continuing process, because no matter where we are, I'd love to talk about this in the sense of you could be a millionaire, you have $1 million, but you want 10 million. There's a releasing and cleansing and purifying that needs to happen to move from $1 million consciousness to a $10 million consciousness, from a $10 million consciousness to a $20 million consciousness, right? So at every level, it's not just about, I got to remove the bad. It's whatever the next greatest expression of you that is seeking to emerge, there's a cleansing, purification, releasing that must take place. Okay. How to cleanse your mind? You must get rid of what you do not want to make way for what you do want. Substance, gold dust, mind power does not flow easily into a cluttered, crowded situation. Substance does not flow easily into a cluttered, crowded mind. Substance does not flow easily into a cluttered, crowded, hate-filled emotional state. Interesting.
Please highlight this whole paragraph. It's so good. Because she's giving you examples of where the holdup can be. And we sometimes think it's the other person, right? Or whatever. If I had more money, if I had a better job. What she's saying is that takes the power away from you. Right. This gives the power to you in your mind on how to prepare yourself to receive.
Cluttered, crowded situation, cluttered, crowded mind, cluttered, crowded, hate-filled emotional state.
Right. Situation. Oh, it's complicated. I don't want to get nobody's business, but where there's complication, there is clutter. And whether it's in your home or whether it's in your relationships, it's complicated is a signal that there needs to be a release of some things.
Yes. You must begin to form a vacuum in both outer and inner ways. Magnetic influences are transmitted perfectly through a vacuum. By forming a vacuum, you become magnetic to your good. I have seen it happen hundreds of times. So what does she mean when she says a vacuum? Now, you've heard us teach this spiritual principle. It's a universal spiritual principle that nature abhors a vacuum, meaning that empty space can never exist. Empty space will always be filled. And so understanding that principle, what Catherine Ponder is saying is create the empty space. You must clear out the space. You must create an empty space. I mean, imagine a plane can't land if there's clutter all over the runway.
Or if there's another plane sitting there.
Right, or if there's another plane sitting there, right? And so that's what this forming a vacuum is. There's all these things that you want, but you got a whole bunch of stuff on your runway. And you talking about, oh, just land.
Right.
Just like
Come on, prosperity.
Right. The plane is like, I can't land. It's dangerous. It's not going to happen. There's nowhere for me to land.
Right. There's nowhere for me to land. You can't hold this level with that in place.
Hey. But by forming a vacuum, by clearing out the runway, you become magnetic to your good. And magnetic is interesting because that's automatic. That's the beautiful, magnets. It's not like you have to will the magnets to be, right? Magnetism it's automatic.
The other thing about this that sometimes gets triggered in people unconsciously is this idea of being empty space with nothing in it. It frightens a lot of people because their belief is that nothing will ever feel it. That they had to work so hard to get the home where they are, or to get the money in their bank account, or to get the love, or to get the body in the way they want it. All those things they worked hard to get. This idea says, let all that go.
Yep.
Let all of that go. And it can be a little frightening to your subconscious mind that is so used to working for every little penny. Right? I've often counseled in relationships, people, I'm like, just let it go. If it's meant, it'll come back. You've heard that before, but we don't believe that. Right?
Yes. Outer cleansing. Get rid of what you do not want in an outer way. Clean out the closets, desk drawers, house, car, office. Forming a vacuum in an outer way makes a believer out of your subconscious mind, which then goes to work in inner ways to manifest greater prosperity for you. There has to be a release of the old to make way for the new. You can unblock your good by forming a vacuum. And I'll just say this now, and I don't know if you want to share. I know you have a story if you want to share it, but I know many of you know and love my song, I Make Room for God, right? That's why I used it in the opening today, the opening music. That song was inspired by Catherine Ponder, because Catherine Ponder, she writes about it in the Dynamic Laws of Prosperity, and I read it for the first time, and I was like, I need to start clearing out stuff. And I was in my apartment, and I was clearing out and cleaning out stuff. I had stuff I didn't even realize I had, things that didn't even belong to me, that belonged to my ex-wife. And I'm like, why do I have this stuff in my apartment, right? But as I was cleansing and cleaning up, I just started singing. I make room for God. I make room for God. I make room for God. And that was just it. I'm cleaning. And that's how that song came into being. right? So if you need something to support you, even as you're thinking about these outer ways of clearing out, that's what that song is all about and what inspired that song.
You know, I have so many stories around release and surrender and all that good stuff, but I do want to hop in on this song and using it as a tool for your own release and your own preparation to receive. When I was interning at Sloan Kettering, working on my second master's, I had to take this long train ride to one of my sites. And I always felt like before I got to any of one of my sites where I had to go and work with people or cancer patients or young children or whatever, I needed to clear myself out of the way. And so when I would get off the train, I would put that song on, and it was like a 4 or 5 minute walk from the train to the location, and I would just play it, and I would just sing it, and I would just open myself up to be a vacuum where God could fill it, could give those people in that location what they needed. It wasn't about me. I was just the vessel. But I was also remembering it ain't about how I show up. Yeah. God is there and able to move through me if I allow it, if I open.
Yes, yes. Yes, yes. A woman in Chicago heard about this vacuum law at a lecture one night and decided to stay home from work the next day and clean out closets and drawers. Nothing happened when she cleaned out closets, but when she cleaned out dresser drawers, she found $30 she had tucked away and forgotten. Another woman formed a vacuum by cleaning out her pocketbooks. In one, she found $40 she had forgotten. A housewife formed a vacuum by getting rid of old mismatched sheets in her linen closet. The next day, she received a gift, several new sets of sheets and pillowcases, but nothing happened until a vacuum had been formed to receive them. A marvelous statement to use as you form a vacuum is, I now let go worn out things, worn out conditions, and worn out relationships.
Yes.
Divine order is now established and maintained in me and in my world.
I have used this affirmation when I'm cleaning out my closets in advance, but as I'm folding and being in gratitude for the things that were there, I use this affirmation to remind myself to let it go because something else can fill it, something better. Right?
Yes, yes.
So as you're doing the release, don't just say it once. Don't just say it as you go to your closet. That's good. You're setting yourself up. But you want to connect the physical action to the affirmation.
Yep.
So as you fold each piece and you put it down, I release, I let go of worn out things. Whatever the release statement feels good to you, this is a good one.
Yep.
Divine order is now established in my life. It also feeds that subconscious mind with your activity, with your belief, with your inspired action. This is an inspired action.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Prosperity comes quickly when a vacuum is formed. A musician in Southern California recently learned of the vacuum law of prosperity and decided to invoke it by cleaning out his closet. Within 24 hours, 3 things happened. Since he was a public school music teacher, he needed a summer job. As he cleaned out his closet, he got an idea for conducting music workshops in the summer sessions of colleges and universities. He made a telephone call to his New York agent, who liked the idea so much that within a matter of hours, the agent had him booked at leading universities all over the United States at an interesting income. The second thing that happened was another music teacher called him and said, I'm getting more calls for freelance, evening and weekend work than I can handle. May I refer overflow calls to you? This would give him a year-round second income right in his own neighborhood. The next morning, after cleaning out his closet, he started driving to work on one of the famous California freeways. Along the way, he spied a stalled car. Ordinarily, he would have hurried on, but intuitively, he felt guided to stop and offer assistance. The owner of the stalled car was a woman wearing a white uniform. Upon examining her car, he said, I believe the engine is only overheated. I'll wait with you a few minutes, and if it doesn't start, I'll drive you to the nearest service station where you can get help. Noting the white uniform, he asked, do you do domestic work? Yes, was the reply. Do you have any days available? He queried. Yes, I have every other Thursday. Good. If you'll come and work for my wife, you're hired. The teacher explained that for months they had tried to find help. Later, he exclaimed excitedly, if all this happened just by cleaning out the closet, I can hardly wait to see what will happen when I clean out the garage. Yes, yes, yes. Powerful. Give up the expensive even the new. This is a principle I love. It's the reason why I'm wearing this t-shirt, which I'll explain. In forming an outer vacuum, it is wise to give up the expensive as well as the inexpensive. If the expensive items involved are no longer of use to you. I once had 2 lovely velvet suits, which I hesitated to give up because they carried expensive labels. But every time I looked at them hanging there, I realized that they no longer fit me and were useless to me. Anybody ever been there? Finally, I decided to give them up, even though they were designer clothes. Within less than a week, I received a letter from my sister saying, I have a lovely velvet suit which I bought while abroad. It is by far the most expensive garment I've ever owned, but I do not wear it. I am mailing it to you in hope that you can use it in your lecture work. Could I? It arrived just in time to accompany me on my next trip, and its color even matched the auditorium in which I spoke. Furthermore, it had cost even more than the suits I had just given away. The experience taught me that by giving up the expensive, one makes way for something even more beautiful to come without financial stress. And so the way I have impressed that principle on my mind is I call it the good, better, best principle. Sometimes you have to give up the good to get to the better. Sometimes you give up the better to get to the best. We're sometimes fearful because something good we've had in our lives or we attracted in our lives and it may have sentimental value. It's like, well, I don't want to give it up, or, oh, it's expensive, or I worked so hard for it. But by releasing even that which was good, you're making room for the better. Mm-hmm. By releasing that which was better, you're making room for the best with ease and with effortlessness. Dr. Ernest Wilson once gave this explanation. All of our loosing is not simply the loosing of so-called evil. This is a powerful teaching, y'all. We must loose forms of the good as well. Good is seldom static. It is progressive.
So bad.
Right? Good is seldom static. It's progressive. And so this is how many of us fall out of a prosperity consciousness, because we've attracted good and we think, I have good and that's enough, right? As though good is finite or static. Good is unlimited. It's progressive. It continues to unfold. There is no ceiling to your good because there's literally no ceiling to God. God is continuing to express itself over and over and over and over again, right? The universe has no end. So it is true for the good of your own life. Good is seldom static. It is progressive. It evolves. It changes. We must allow it to be so. We must loose accustomed forms of good when our progress or that of someone else involved demands it. We must not be afraid to trust that law that brought the good to bring another that shall fulfill it. We must be willing to let angels go that archangels may come into our life. Lord have mercy. Loose your good. Hold it gently. Free it readily. That's the good, better, best principle, y'all. Lord have mercy.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it is something new we need to release. Have you ever bought something on impulse, only to realize later that you did not need it? If so, instead of condemning yourself for having shopped impulsively, return it or otherwise dispose of it. As you release it, you make way for the equivalent good to find its way to you. I once bought a dinner dress on impulse, only to realize later that it was not right for me. Soon after passing it on to someone who delighted in it, my personal shopper called to say that she had just received in stock several dinner dresses that seemed exactly right for me. Upon inspecting them, I found one that easily took the place of the one I had released. It was far more suitable. A businessman recently said to me, it also pays to get rid of that which doesn't work. I had long been haunted by a certain health problem which didn't clear up. One day I decided to form a vacuum by throwing out my medicine. I have not had an attack since. Disclaimer. This is not an encouragement to throw out your medicine. This is what this person did. It worked for him, but we don't know all of how his beliefs are set up, and it's important to understand how your beliefs are set up. And so you're more than likely going to be throwing out medicine fearfully. This is not an encouragement.
And that's why we lovingly, jokingly say, how our beliefs are set up, right? The way my beliefs are set up. Right now, I can't do that, right? When my illness first began, everyone was telling me that I would be on injections for the rest of my life. And at the time, I needed those injections to stabilize my body. And so I took them. But I also held the idea in mind that this was a temporary situation.
Yes.
So it's kind of a bridging of the two. It's not this drastic, I just threw everything out or I refused to take it. It was a belief in me that right now where I am, in consciousness, in body, because I was so sick.
Right. And it was so much pain.
And in so much pain. It was the right choice to take the medication and hold the consciousness that this was temporary. And so as I held that consciousness and the pain began to subside, took a while. Then I got to the point where I found professionals, medical professionals, who supported me coming off of the injections, right? So it's not a either or.
Right.
It's not, I'm not a good, student because I don't have to take medication or I take medication. It's not that. I'm not judging anybody that does either or.
Right.
But I realized that there was an easier way.
Yes.
There was a more loving way for me.
Right.
The amount of pain had to subside physically. And I held the consciousness that this was temporary.
Yes, yes.
So that's an alternative way to use your medication.
Yes, yes. Yes, I love that. I love that. I love that. Okay, cleansing through order. You can cleanse your mind for prosperity by getting things in order generally. As you do so, affirm divine order. God does not violate the orderly arrangement of events. Instead, God seems to withhold the next development until order is first established in the present situation, in the present state of mind.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful, because sometimes we're like, where's my next good? But really the truth is, and like our mentor, August Gold, you can't hold the next good yet.
Right.
You're not in the position mentally, you're not open to receive, you haven't cleared out the old beliefs about self, you haven't forgiven, you're not ready to receive, you wouldn't be able to hold it. You might attract it,
Right.
you might manifest it, but can you keep it?
Right. Yeah. A college professor's car was hit by a car driven by one of his students. The latter's insurance company did not properly respond to the claim. For 2 months, this case dragged on until the professor realized he had not affirmed divine order. When he got quiet and did so, he called again for another appointment with the insurance adjuster. This time, the papers were ready for his signature and a check was forthcoming. 2 things here. When he got quiet.
That's what I was going to say.
Stillness.
Yes.
Before action.
Right.
And there's more power in stillness. That's why atomic power is so powerful at the smallest level, right? He got quiet, he affirmed divine order, and out of that, external events changed. Emerson spoke of sublime order rather than divine order. He wrote of a man throwing himself joyfully into the sublime order. A good affirmation for this is, I am in divine order. I am in sublime order now. When things seem inharmonious and out of order, don't rush about frantically trying to make them right in an outer way or trying to change other people and make them more orderly. Instead, remind yourself that lack of order first exists within you. If you can get your own thoughts and feelings orderly, the people, situations, and even the universe about you will respond in a more orderly way. 2 women were driving in a heavy rainstorm when one of them remembered to affirm divine order. Quickly, the fog lifted, the rain stopped, and they drove into clear weather. Declare often, the inflow and outflow of everything in my life is established in divine order. I am peaceful and poised.
I love that. I'm peaceful and poised.
All of these powerful affirmations, we trust that you're capturing them, that you're putting them in your journal, and that you're making use of them.
Yes, please do that. There's so many good ones, and we hope that you are putting them in your journal, but we also hope that you're using them in situations when it calls for them.
Absolutely. Make your elimination list. Now, this should be familiar to you all. This is going to take you back to New Year's Eve because I gave y'all this tool on New Year's Eve. So if you didn't make use of it then, you have another opportunity to make use of it. You can cleanse your mind for prosperity by writing out what you want eliminated from your life. For many years, I had made lists of what I wanted to manifest in my life, but one nagging problem did not clear up, and I could not understand why. Finally, I read a little book which suggested that you write out what you want to eliminate from life first, and then list what you want to manifest. This, said the booklet, was the way to alter your life. I tried the suggestion and it worked. In fact, it was amazing how quickly that nagging problem disappeared from my life after I had battled with it for years when I dared to write down that I wanted that problem eliminated. Mm-hmm. Inner cleansing through release. The function of elimination is twofold: to eliminate error and to expand your good. Elimination of something from your life is always an indication that something better is on the way. After writing about what you want eliminated, it is good to declare, I let go and trust. This goes back to what PY was talking about earlier, where you may be scared to eliminate things because you're like, well, I don't know what's going to come, or I don't know if anything is going to come. Right? So it is a very trusting act to even write down an elimination list and then declare, I let go and trust.
Right. And, you know, it's also a beautiful way to get rid of all the emotion around what you've been holding on to without making the problem bigger. Mm-hmm. Because by saying I'm eliminating these things, you can write down what it is. Yeah. You can feel the emotion of it, but you make sure at the end, I let go.
Yep.
Don't just spend all your day writing down what's wrong with your partner. But write down the things that you have the ability to, that impact you, you have the ability to control, whatever it is. But then let it go and trust. Once you put it on your elimination list, don't pick it up again.
How about it? When you are trying to achieve a result and it has not come, it is often because there is still something in mind, body, affairs, or relationships that you need to renounce, free, release, or eliminate. As long as you put off this elimination process, you put off results. Every phase of life requires renunciation. Every advance means the rejection of something old. But elimination not only takes something from you, it gives something to you. I use this example over and over again because it's so practical. If you're in New York and you want to go to LA, think about it this way, but you're renouncing New York, to be in LA. And then when you want to come back to New York, you're giving up, you're renouncing, you're letting go, you're freeing, you're releasing the Los Angeles experience so that you can experience the New York experience. So we understand that, right? And so as it is true at that level of life, because there's correspondence, it is true at the metaphysical level of life.
And it's such a beautiful awareness and process. We just got to get used to it and consciously do it. Just like he said, the flights back and forth, the breath in and out of your body is a release, an elimination. If you're really taking the full breath, your body is doing things internally that you're not aware of.
Absolutely.
It's gathering old cells, old energy, and it's releasing it and signaling the body to make new and better. So this automatically happens. We just don't notice it. Right. And when we are in a position where we have to be conscious of it, we become fearful. Yeah. But it happens automatically. It happens naturally. Yep. And the more you allow yourself to get comfortable with renunciation or release, the easier it becomes.
Yep. A businessman in Detroit said skeptically, how does my subconscious mind know what to eliminate? It may eliminate the wrong thing.
Good question.
The subconscious mind does not know. But the superconscious or Christ mind does know what to eliminate and will work through both the conscious and subconscious activities of mind to properly eliminate from your world that which should be eliminated when you call on the Christ consciousness to do so. Right. So this is interesting and important because this is actually taking us back to Florence Scovel Shinn, our Masterclass, The Game of Life and How to Play It. We got game. Florence Scovel Shinn teaches about these three levels of mind. We have the conscious mind, we have the subconscious mind, and then there's the superconscious mind or the Christ mind. That's the highest level of knowing, which knows all, sees all. That's whose business the how actually is, right? Not your subconscious or your conscious. And so when you recognize that we have full and complete access to the wisdom of the Christ mind or the superconscious mind, we recognize that that is what's going to orderly take care of things, so we're not worried about eliminating the wrong thing. So she goes on, this you can do through using decrees that declare the all-intelligent Christ mind is doing the eliminating. So this is important. Making use of your conscious mind, you must remind your subconscious mind of who and what is actually doing the work. who is handling the how. And so she gives us these examples. Christ in me is my releasing power. Christ in me is my freeing power. Christ in me now frees me from all resentment or attachment toward or from people, places, or things of the past or present. I now release everything and everybody of the past or present that are no longer part of the divine plan for my life. Christ in me is in Christ in me manifests my true place with the true people and the true prosperity now. You could say the Christ mind in me, the Christ consciousness in me, the superconscious mind, if you want to use a different word. It's all pointing to the same thing, right? We don't want you to get hung up on the word. If Christ or Christ mind does not have resonance for you, it's important that you use, again, a word like the superconscious mind or God consciousness, right? There's other words you could use there to invoke that.
The other thing about this is sometimes people take these ideas, these affirmative thoughts, and this idea of releasing the people in your lives, and they do the release work from anger.
Oh, yeah.
From fear, from doubt. And so I want you out of my life. And so I'm going to invoke the Christ consciousness power. But there's also more to it than that.
Right.
In that, how did you end up in that relationship? How about doing the release work around your forgiveness of self, beliefs in self-worth? Release that in addition to releasing the person.
Yeah.
Actually do the release work around these these ideas in your consciousness, and then you will be led if there isn't a way or something you have to say to the other person. I've run across a lot of people that want to take these ideas and morph them around their current personality. Instead of the reality that we're all connected to God.
Right.
And if you release a person, for example, there's somebody else that will fill that spot in your life and will fill your spot in their life. But don't do it because you're trying to manipulate the other person.
Absolutely. I once used these statements of release at a time when I felt general dissatisfaction in my life, but I did not know what needed to be released. I was soon offered a lovely apartment in a complex where I had long wished to live. With the move came the release of old furniture and personal effects from which I had wanted freedom. The new surroundings gave a new lease on life, though I had not realized I needed the change and could have it just then. The Christ mind had known it and arranged it when I used the foregoing statements of release. Divine intelligence always knows what to do and responds when we call on it. This is something we talk about so often. You know, there's a stage in consciousness. We teach the 4 stages of spiritual consciousness as Reverend Michael has presented them to us. You know, that first stage is manipulator consciousness, right? And you want to write everything down and you think you got to name everything. And you're kind of treating life, the universe, God's source like Santa Claus. But we recognize that as you move through the stages and as you start to mature in your understanding, you don't actually need to write the list. Why? Because you're working with this mind that already knows exactly what you need in the way that you need it. Right? And so I love that she says here, I didn't really know what I needed. The Christ mind in me knew what needed and brought it exactly what I needed in beautiful ways that gave me freedom, that gave me a sense of a new lease on life.
So what she was doing, she didn't know the exact thing she needed to release, but she felt the energy that there was some stagnation. And so she opened herself up to, and she trusted that the right things that needed to be released would be released. Right? So that's what she's saying. She's saying, both have their place.
Yep.
The elimination list has its place. So don't pretend you're so spiritual that you don't need to write a list out. Okay, so I'm advanced. I don't need to write a list.
We all do.
We all do.
Yeah.
But she's also saying there might be things that don't make it to your list that need to be released. Or you might come into a point in your life where you feel some stagnation and you can just trust, I'm willing to release this.
Right, whatever it is.
Whatever it is, I don't know. I don't know. And so both have their place.
And it's really all one and the same thing.
It is all one and the same.
Clean out your life. Along with cleaning out the closet, you must also clean out your life if you wish to cleanse your mind for prosperity. If you want to be prospered, be healed, and have your prayers answered, you must clean up and clean out your life. It is useless to affirm benefits, protection, supply, guidance, and healing if all the time you are doing things which you know are not right in the sight of God and humanity. So often when one first learns of the power of thought, they think they can use mind power to force other people to do what they want them to do. They try to plaster over their life with affirmations. They may even get temporary results, but those results will only be temporary unless they have been founded upon the right basis.
I want to go back to the paragraph before that, where she says that are not right in the sight of God. There is a way of living in the world that is unconditionally loving and true and connected to source. And there's a way of living in the world that is not. And so it's not that God is going to judge you by the way you release or live. It's that there's an internal knowingness of love and connection that comes forward in your life. And that's the lens by which you look at the world.
Right. The opening reading today, we read from the Daily Word about kindness, right? About living from the golden rule, right? That's what it's rooted in, right? Because that's one of the most loving acts. And the beautiful thing about that, do unto others as you have them do to you, right? Love your neighbor as you love yourself. As I always teach, is love God, love you, love people. So you have to, that also means how you're treating yourself in the sight of God and humanity. Right? So you may be treating everybody else out in the world, like they're royalty, but you treat yourself like you're poor and broke, right?
And that doesn't mean going out and buying lavish things because I'm going to treat myself good. What thoughts are you holding about yourself on a daily basis?
Inner critic, yeah. I'm talking
Right.
about
Are
that
you
inner
criticizing yourself on a daily basis? And is that critic so constant you don't even know it's there? It's just running. And it's running by things like the word I should have done, things like that. When you notice it, it's not another opportunity to beat yourself up. It's an opportunity to put that on your elimination list. It's an opportunity to open yourself. I don't know how to release all the ways in which I self-harm, but I know that God within me does. So I open myself to that.
Yeah. A lonely widow had led a life of emotional and moral compromise since the death of her husband, feeling that she had to settle for such an arrangement, right? So she's kind of without so many words, she's letting us know what's going on. Finally, she realized that if she wished to remarry, she must clean up and clean out her life. It took at least 6 months to clear out various compromising relationships. But after she did, there was a quiet period of trusting in God to show her the way. Within a year, she happily married a fine man whom she would not have met had she continued in her previous circle of acquaintances. And the beautiful thing here, right, because there's no judgment, right? She could absolutely live her life in the way that she chose to. But there's a disconnect if you're saying, and I want to get married, right? And it's like, well, you're holding these different types of relationships, and you're not in harmony with what it is that you say you want.
Right. So
And
again, no heat,
often.
no judgment. Live your life the way you want to.
Yeah.
But at some point, you have to come to terms with what you say you want versus what you are really living.
There you go.
And if you don't really want to be married, fine. Continue to have whatever relationships you want. But don't say that out for the public.
Right.
I don't want to be married. But secretly or within your heart, no, I do want that. But there's something within you that won't allow you to believe you can have it. That's where the work is.
Absolutely. It is true that God's divine law withholds the next development until order is first established. We're coming back to that. In the present situation, that also means in your mind. This woman proved that elimination is twofold, and that when she eliminated error from her life, the expanded good came. For freedom in your relationships, declare, Christ in me now frees me from everything and everybody that are no longer part of the divine plan for my life. Everything and everybody that are no longer part of the divine plan for my life, now release me. Christ in me reveals, unfolds, and manifests the divine plan of my life now.
I love that she offers the release and she receives the release.
Subtle teachings there. Okay, we'll end with this last section. Cleanse your mind through forgiveness, because this is important. Cleanse your mind for prosperity by practicing forgiveness. Many people are never permanently prospered, no matter what else they do, because they are holding grudges and negative feelings toward others. Until they get down to business and forgive, their prosperity does not come. The word forgive means simply to give up. Forgiveness is not an unpleasant, dramatic outer act in which you say, I am sorry, when you are not. Instead, forgiveness is a pleasant inner act that leaves you at peace with yourself and others.
Please highlight this whole paragraph, that whole paragraph, yes.
It is good to give yourself a universal forgiveness treatment every day. This keeps your mind and emotions cleared of negative feelings that could block your good. This should be familiar to you all because I've given you this specific forgiveness prayer many times. All that has offended me, I forgive. Within and without, I forgive. Things past, things present, things future, I forgive. I forgive everything and everybody who can possibly need forgiveness in my past and present. I forgive positively everyone. I am free, and all others are free too. All things are cleared up between us now and forever. And this is something, again, pray every day. You use this as the closing of your day. This is something that we and all of the New Thought teachers, I'm thinking about Ernest Holmes and others, teach and practice, that they close their day with forgiveness. Because you may not remember everything, but what you do know as someone who has opened their mind to prosperity is that you want to keep your runway clear. Because that's what I'm doing. I'm like, listen, I need to keep my runway clear no matter what. So everybody who could possibly need forgiveness in my past and present, I forgive positively everyone. I am free, and all others are free too. All things are cleared up.
Now, it doesn't say here, I condone what happened. It just says, I just want to let it go. And even if what happened was at my hand, my responsibility, my words, I just release it all. I release it all so that I can sleep through the night, so that I can awaken in the morning refreshed and ready and open and available to more inspired ideas. This is for me in truth.
Absolutely.
This is so that I stay connected, so that my runway stays clear. This is for me. And if that don't motivate you to clear out whatever, I don't know what will. Because when you hold on, you're keeping yourself in prison, and you're right in there with the person that you put in there.
There you go. That's how it works.
Right?
Yep.
And so again, we're not saying that what happened wasn't in need of some love and some compassion for you. We're not saying that it didn't happen. We're saying, how do I want to live now? Right? And as you begin to do these kinds of forgiveness exercises, you'll be led if there are other things that need to be a more deeper level of awareness and forgiveness around. We're just saying, start to open your mind to the possibility that I want to be free.
Yep.
I can be right about what happened, and you probably are. But I'd rather be free.
So looking at the time, we're not going to be able to move through the remainder of the chapter, but we encourage you to complete the chapter and reread the entire chapter again, because there's some powerful things here. And for all that you've gotten and received in the aha moments, there's a deeper level of aha that will happen as you read it again and complete the chapter. There's so many wonderful affirmations, release statements, elimination statements, forgiveness statements that you can begin to use. You'll read later in the chapter additional stories of forgiveness. There may be things that you thought there's no way that forgiveness could work in that situation, and you see that it does. Remember, forgiveness is for you. It is a success principle. It's a prosperity principle. It's how you, again, keep the runway clear. That's all you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Right? You can be right, but in your rightness, you're keeping a whole bunch of junk on your runway that prevents your plane from landing or landing safely. Because that's the other thing. Sometimes the plane lands and then there's disaster on the ground.
And here's the other piece of this. When you begin to practice, maybe you're not there yet. But can you say, I'm willing to forgive?
Yeah.
And set you free? I'm willing. Because you might not be up there yet, but I'm willing. And you keep practicing, I'm willing. And then one day it'll be, yeah, you know what, I'm done with that.
Yeah. And if you have questions about the chapter as you're reading it, note them down. You can send an email to truthsunday@celebrationsc.org. And again, as we're able, we will incorporate those questions into next week's class so that we can continue to support you in powerful ways. Shout out to the Prosperity Circle. Of course, if y'all have questions, you can ask those questions in the circle and we'll be there to support you. But we're looking forward to continuing as we will start with chapter 3 next week. Now, in this moment, it is time for giving, and we recognize that giving is a powerful act of prosperity. And why is that so? Because as you give, you receive. What does that mean? Well, in order to give, you have to have. In order to have, you must be aware of your having. In order to be aware of your having, you must be in a space and place where you recognize the source of your having. And so as you give, you have, you're putting the recognition on who is the supply of that having. And you know that it is a continuous cycle, like a boomerang that's coming again. And so you must receive. That's the prosperity. That's how it works. That's the principle, right? It has nothing to do with being spiritual in that sense, because it works for anybody. This principle, I quote my childhood pastor who used to teach this, and seemed radical at the time. And he was like, if a drug dealer who sold drugs, all weekend on the street brought that money in and gave it to the church, the principle would work the same, because it's the principle, right? It has nothing to do with him being a good or a bad person, right? It has nothing to do with even how the money was earned. As you give, you receive. That's the principle. Now, to give the Celebration Spiritual Center and to support the mission and vision of CSC, it's very easy to give to CSC. You can go to our website, celbrationsc.org/give, and give your dollar amount there, or you can text to give to the phone number you see on your screen, 347-744-9500. For the text to give option, there is a $10 minimum to text to give. We are appreciative of your continued support of CSC and your continued support of the mission and vision of CSC, because literally your contributions to CSC helps to change lives. Literally, your contributions to CSC keep CSC here so that someone else will find CSC next month, next year, 10, 12 years from now. And that's one of the things that's always so profound to me. I think about all of the folks that have supported CSC financially since 2012 and 2013, even before we opened our doors. And it's like those seeds, those gifts are the reason that many of you were able to find CSC in the time that you found CSC, right? To be able to benefit from CSC in the moment that CSC came into your life. So we love and appreciate each and every one of you, and know that your giving has a powerful and profound ripple effect. And so when we give from this awareness, then we can affirm this with joy. We can affirm this in faith and with confidence. All the money that I circulate returns to me multiplied. In a never-ending cycle. Of increase. And enjoyment. To that we say amen. Ashe. And so it is. Yes. Well, I am so grateful and thankful for CSC. I'm so grateful and thankful for this masterclass. I'm so grateful and thankful to Catherine Ponder, who feels like, in some ways, a spiritual mother to us. I was thinking about this last week. We have a little bit of time, so I'll share this. So many of you know Reverend August Gold is one of our mentors, and we were able to bring August to CSC for one of our anniversaries, and we reference her often. CSC spoke her name just earlier. And there's a story that Reverend August told us about when her and Reverend Carol and the rest of the team were decided that they were going to start their ministry, Sacred Center, New York. And, they were just excited about this new thing that they were creating. And so they were talking to Catherine Ponder, who, of course, they loved and looked up to. And Catherine Ponder was very lovely and very supportive. And she said, I'm going to send you something, because if you're starting a church, your congregation needs to know something. She sent them cases of books of the dynamic laws of prosperity. And of course, Sacred Center New York thrived in beautiful, profound ways. We found each other through Sacred Center New York. We are children of that ministry, in the sense of CSC does not exist without the consciousness of Sacred Center New York. And we carry that on in so many different ways. The 555 method we learned from August Gold. And I love letting her know, right, that we teach that, and there are people that she'll never meet that are practicing that principle and those principles. And so this connection to Catherine Ponder is kind of deep in that way for us. And so we're just grateful to be able to teach this and the new ripples of prosperity and blessing and answered prayers that are created and co-created as we do this work together. So please continue reading, continue affirming, continue studying, continue opening, right? Because it's really not about working. It's about allowing. right? It's really not about working. It's about opening. And when you do that, profound, beautiful, amazing, miraculous things must take place.
Start off simple and easy. Don't just go in there and rip through your whole house, metaphorically or literally, right? Just take it bit by bit, step by step. Release and allow. Release and allow, just like breath.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So again, we love and appreciate you. We trust that you'll have an amazing rest of your Sunday, an amazing remainder of your week. We look forward to connecting on Wednesday for the prayer call, and then we'll be back together next Sunday on Father's Day. Yay. And we'll celebrate together Father's Day, and we will celebrate together as we move forward with chapter 3 of Open Your Mind to Prosperity. Tell somebody about this. Share this with someone. Send this to someone that you think may benefit from these teachings and from this consciousness, and let them know that there's more good coming and more good coming.
Absolutely.
All right, y'all. Bye for now.
Bye for now.